Hi, everybody.
Check, 1, 2.
How you all doing? Fantastic. Great. I'm happy to learn. We have the great pleasure of being here today with Shay Pope, who's a noted producer, writer, who does a lot of music across the board, anywhere from hip-hop to pop.
Yep.
He worked with those guys in particular and many other guys in general. And what we're going to do today is we're going to open a session with Mariam, which is a really awesome session. And Shay will tell you all about it and show you how he came up with the sounds and stuff like that using the UAD stuff. But first...
Yeah. Was anyone here from yesterday? Okay, cool. So I'll try not to repeat myself. I'll try to expand on yesterday as well. We'll review, but then I'll expand.
We'll review and expand. How's that for a concept?
Go.
Here we go. Your favorite playground. And so tell us a little bit. So Shay could not bring the Weeknd track, but he could bring the Mariam track, which is an artist.
Yeah.
Who's Mariam?
So Mariam is an artist from Senegal, actually. She was Brooklyn-based. I think she relocated to L.A., but it was this... The guy who runs the music department at this film studio, STX, he told me about this amazing artist, and he played me some music, and I was like blown away because it was just something. It was different, but it was like, and at the same time, somewhat of a challenge. You know, I mean, she's extremely, what would be the word? Particular. That would be the word. She's very particular, and knows what she wants and doesn't want. So it was a challenge. So literally, the way I approach the song, I was telling everybody yesterday, is I really just pictured her in a small, dimly lit venue, bar, whatever it would be, her performing, and then that's how we made this song. And that was the approach I took.
And that's really important. I want to stress again, what Shay just said is the crucial thing, right? He didn't say, oh, I thought I was going to do a cool R&B track, or I thought I wanted to use these cool samples I just got. Shay said, I'm going to picture her in a dimly lit showroom or a jazz club, and that creates the atmosphere that he's looking for. So he's not going by a technical thing or trying to chase radio or whatever. He's trying to create a spirit and a vibe, and that is very important. That's why the stuff sounds good.
Yeah.
So who's playing tenor on this?
Say it again?
Who's playing the saxophone?
Oh, it's this amazing Italian musician. What's his name? It sounds like it's real, right? I love that.
Yeah.
It's not.
What?
It's not. But that's one of my tricks.
Okay.
It's magic.
Okay, that's.
But is this really a really amazing Italian musician playing that?
Really nice.
Yeah.
Really nice. So maybe we should play the track and then comment.
Okay.
Does that work?
Cool.
So hit it. I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
I'm not changing.
Shay's work on this track, and yes, it is bananas. Now, here's the thing that's important. This is not a finished record. This is why this is great. Shay brought a work in progress, an in-between thing.
Yeah.
She doesn't have the full lyric. Like, this is why the vocal stops here and there. She didn't write those lyrics yet. You're having a peek into the process. So let's talk about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's really what I wanted to do. I wanted you to sort of, and this is like, this isn't Kanye West or this isn't that. This is like, a new artist and it's just kind of a glimpse into our process, where I really wanted to bring this track in particular because it really shows the power of the UAD plugins because I'm using factory sounds. The whirly in there is just a Logic instrument. The bass in there is just a Logic instrument. You know what I mean? And I'm really bringing them to life just, using some really standard UAD plugins. But like when I first started out and I was in real studios and using this, and I was using this stuff, it was the stuff that was available to use, You learned on like, okay, we're going to use a Neve pre, we're going to use 1176. So to me, the Logic instruments alone are very lifeless. They're very plain. They're very uninspiring, but through using these plugins, I was bringing these things to life, and that inspired, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to show this session in particular, because it is a work in progress, and who knows, at the end of it, I may replace some things here and there to give it more organic, but I'm working with an artist that is very anti-computer, very anti-synth, and I've even snuck some synth sounds in there. There's programmed drums in there. There's a lot of live stuff, but there's also quite a mixture of just stock Logic sounds, and it's just really the magic of the UAD plugins, bringing it to life. Where she's like, okay,
I think this is delightful. Here's let me show you a couple things that Shay is doing that's really awesome. So, for example, on the chorus, listen to the sound of this chorus.
Love is not conditional.
And then he plays the verse. Hold on one second. Listen to the sound of this chorus.
Not changing. For you to want me, but I'm not changing.
This is rocking, right? It's really fantastic. Like the minute it hits, everybody goes, yeah. Okay. So now look at on your 2 mix, you have 2 plugins. You have the Studer and the Shadow Hill. Now, this is across the whole mix, right? We're talking across the whole mix. Now take a quick look, and you heard, you all been to school, you heard that when it's red, it means stop, right? Yeah, the red means stop. Check out the, except maybe for underwear. But here's the Studer. Look at the needle on the Studer on the chorus.
Not changing.
Slam it.
For you to want me, but I'm not changing.
So that's theoretically wrong, but what if I remove it?
Not changing. For you to want me.
No longer bounces as hard, right? I'll play it back with it. I think this is awesome.
Not changing. For you to want me, but I'm not.
And then I'll hold your questions and I'll answer after.
Yeah.
And then there's just a couple dBs of reduction after that on the Shadow Hill, probably to not blow out the outputs.
Exactly.
So that's what I'm talking about. So did you add this later? Did you start with this? How do you do it? What made you do this?
Well, the same thing. While I was in the process, and you're trying to get your drums, you're trying to get the feeling. So while I'm in the feeling, I'm just experimenting with different things to really to get the speakers to talk back to me. And then eventually I arrived. It wasn't an instantaneous thing. The Studer is one of the things that it's one of the tricks. If anyone here is old enough to have worked on tape, you can record things really hot and you slam it in, you get this nice effect, and that used to be really like just a hip hop trick too, of how to get the drums to knock. We have this thing called the knock, and we're always trying to search for the knock. That's the master of the knock right there. That's the C note in the building. But so I still use that theory, so to speak, how I approach music and drums now. Because even though it's digital, I'm still trying to always search for getting the best vibe coming back to me. So that's how I arrived there. So So there's no rhyme or reason to my methodology. It's just more of like, let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. I use SSL plugin channel strips a lot. I use Neve because I, try to, the Neve, the SL, those are probably my favorite weapons. 1176 is great. Depending on the type of music, I'll incorporate because who would love to just own a $50,000 Fairchild? You know what I mean? So, and it's not for everything, but when you can incorporate a Fairchild into what you're doing, it sounds amazing. But it is you really have to like dial it in and work on what what record makes the most sense for.
Yeah, the Fairchild is this legendary. For those of you who were born yesterday or in the last 30 seconds, the Fairchild is this compressor, which was a program compressor. It was designed to be for radios or and basically what it does is it's a big monster. You can see one right here. It's like 6 U's. It's monster, and there's so many tubes and transformers in it. It's kind of like the Matrix of audio. You know, in the Matrix, when the guys come and it goes, and everything slows down like this. Think of a Fairchild as that. There's so much stuff in the path that your audio just slows down, Matrix sound, and it's got this real thick sound, and it really makes things slower and softens the transient. Kind of like what the Studer does, but it's a different flavor of it.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic plugin.
And I think, the biggest thing is, I was stressing this yesterday, is explore. That's the way you learn. I would, I literally might stay on one plugin for just a while and just dial it in, master it, really learn the power of these things because, at the end of the day, it's about the song, right? It's about making the song sound as the best that it can. So the more you understand the tools that you're using, the better you're equipped to do that with the song. And then it becomes second nature because it first starts out as, okay, I'm learning it. But then when you start getting, you're making an album, you're in a project, you're finishing a song, you're under a deadline, these tools become second nature. And before you know it, you're just doing it. Okay, that didn't work. Okay, but I know how, this is the problem going on with this, is the vocals are still muddy for me. And you immediately, okay, I know what I want to do to dial that in. And you mix, because, you'd love to have as much time in the world to just finish songs. But once you really get into this, you're under deadlines and you're under temperamental artists and they want it they want it yesterday. You're working all night. You're 6 in the morning, you're tired, you had 10 cups of coffee, but you got to get it done. Failure is not an option. So that's why you need these tools. And that's why you got to master them when you have the time to learn, study them, and master them, that when you are in the heat of battle, you're ready to go.
That is crucial. It doesn't really matter how many plugins you have. What matters is how do you know them? How do you feel them? Can you feel what they're going to do before you put them on? Instead of just like twiddling knobs endlessly. So the exploration is key because it's going to teach you what to do. So like, for example, I would have never thought of doing that. That's bananas. I am so going to go crash something. I'm going to go home. I'm doing this Calle 13 right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just going to go crazy. And they're going to say no, but I don't care. I'm just going to push for it.
Yeah.
And then, so, these things are great too because you can hear somebody like him show you something. Go explore. Don't just go home and say, oh, that was cool. Nah, go try it. See if you can make it work the same. And you'll see that it's not that simple. Don't take pictures of the settings. That serves no purpose.
Yeah.
The settings are irrelevant. It's the intention that matters. Let's show us something else in there that in your session that you dug. Maybe the bongos.
Okay.
That was so awesome.
The bongos there's actually two sides. I use an SSL pre when I recorded them.
So these are real bongos. They're not.
Yeah. So these are real bongos. I use console. I use console a lot. A lot of what I do is I experiment. I try to incorporate as much live stuff mixed in with program stuff. I got tons of toys, OP1s and different things. And if you mix that with organic instruments, you can arrive at really magical places. Some people do EDM and they only focus on, VSTs and whatever. And some people are the other way. They only use live instruments. I like the mashup of the both. And then trying to find the Weeknd is a good example of that song. There's both going on. There's a sample in it. There's a replayed sample in it, with real live instruments, and there's VSTs in it. And it's all very subtle, so that it just sounds like it doesn't sound like this crazy, juxtaposition of things going on. Everything is in its right place. So it sits really nicely. That's a good example of that.
So when Shay mentions I use console a lot, it means he's using the UAD console that comes with Apollo a lot.
Yeah.
This dude. And this is your input console to the system, right? So say you have a twin. On the twin, you have two inputs and a bunch of optical inputs. These two inputs, you can see them here, twin 1, twin 2, right? So you have the ability to insert plugins, like for example, on twin 1 right now, there's an LA2 and a 1073. You can insert these plugins on the way in and you can record that. So let's play the bongos and see how they sound. Because if you look the bongo track, where is it? This is it. There's almost nothing on it, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let's listen to it.
610. This is the 610.
So all there is right now, post whatever you did on
Yeah.
the way in, like I just showed you. Shay is adding the 610. What was the idea behind that?
So, you know, I had this very talented percussionist, Aponte, come in, and you know, the artist is very particular about her sounds. The percussionist is just as particular. So I was trying to capture it as true and natural as possible. So I kept it pretty flat, everything pretty basic, but I wanted to get the nuances of, you know, everything. But like I was saying, some of this stuff is programmed, some of it's live. So I wanted all the nuances of him hitting it. He's breathing, you even catching some of his breath in it. And then this actually on the other side of it, after I got it in, I went through quite a bit of exploration to try to find. I just needed it to a little bit like to come alive in the mix a little bit more. So I tried several things, and it's funny. It's funny. I ended up at the 610 because all it needed was to be just brought alive a little bit. It didn't need, you know, it didn't need additional EQ. It didn't need all this, you know, the bells and whistles. I think I wrote a little of the top end off actually.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I wrote a little of the top end off, and then all it needed was just the life, and the 610 ended up being the magic. So, you know, I went through a number of different things, 1176s to different EQs to arrive. I mean, I actually went through APIs and different, you know, really just experimenting. And then the 610 was just the magic that I was looking for. So it's going to be a lot of trial and error like that. And that's a perfect example of that one.
The 610 is a recreation of a legendary tube console that Universal Audio made in the 50s. And it's like so legendary that if one, they want only a few made. If one is for sale, they go for a ridiculous amount of money, like 300 grand or 400 grand for a 10 or 12 channel console. Because those things are priceless, literally. And so what UA did, since they are UA, they were able to recreate the exact sound of that in a plugin. And what works, the reason why it works on the, my opinion as to why it works on the bongos is because of the transformers and the tube path. When you go transformer to transformer, you get this real tightening of the transit. It's not compression.
Yeah.
It just feels good, you know? So you still get the dynamics, but you still get that tight vintage sound.
Yeah.
It's cool. That's
what he said. I don't even know any of that shit. I just know the shit sounded good. You know,
I'm a geek and I'm at peace with it. All right, I just like that stuff. Public service announcement: you're all brothers. You all love each other. Come closer so that we can clear the aisles. Otherwise, they're going to shut us down, and then you won't know the end of this movie.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Maybe for this one, could we take a few questions before?
Yeah, sure.
We got like 5 minutes, right?
We have
5 minutes.
Yeah, we have.
So can we
5
take
minutes.
it? Yeah. Yesterday we didn't get a chance to take any questions.
We didn't get a chance to take a question, so if we're gonna have to make it in a simple way. Somebody in the front has a question. Who has a question? Raise your hand. Okay, you're gonna have to scream, darling.
Yeah, speak up.
Okay. The question is, Shay, how did you start into the craft? What was the inspiration to start doing this? Oh, the track.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so you missed it. So in the beginning, I said I basically pictured her in like a small, intimate jazz club, like, you know. Oh, I mean, that's a good question. I mean, I really started with the groove. I would say I was playing around with, because I knew I wanted to. I would say the best thing I would say. If you notice, I go from this sort of rhythm thing to breaking it down. So I knew I wanted this sort of intimate. So I wrote the chords first, but I knew I wanted this rhythm. I spent a lot of time. I would say I spent a lot of time even though I had the chords, I spent a lot of time on the rhythm. So I would really say it was inspired by the rhythm because I knew I wanted to come back once again, visioning in that thing that I wanted it to break down. I knew I wanted it to come down to this. You know, this was a major idea that I had to do.
Love is not conditional.
So
Love is not afraid.
So I would say that was my original idea, that I had this rhythm thing that breaks down. And then I just needed to find the chords around it.
That pocket is, when it comes in, is really, really fierce.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a vintage drum and bass kind of vibe.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, almost exactly. Almost like the jazz version of
Yeah.
drum and bass. That was
It's
kind of
very-
like
feels very
the
London.
idea. Anything?
We louder. Once you get the vocals, did you rework some of the instruments around the vocals? Correct.
Well, we actually did it together. So she's literally right there next to me while we're vibing on it, and so that's what. Basically, she really just had melodies, and she took the melodies home to finish the record with, and so no, I mean we did it together right there live. So there would be some subtle adjustments, but you know, if you hear the vocals are still low because I haven't really worked on the vocals until she really cuts it.
So you're gonna go back and cut real vocals.
Yeah, we'll go back and cut real vocals, and I'll really, you know, use my I have different things I love to do with vocals, and I'll get into that next time.
And then it gets mixed.
Yeah, then it gets mixed.
And then it gets mastered.
I pretty much I don't mix my records. I usually pass them off to a mixing engineer, but I get them as close as to how I like them, so the mix engineer already knows pretty much what I want.
And you send him stems, or you send him the session?
I send them stems.
Stems.
Yeah.
So how are you going to do stems with that Studer freaking out on the
Oh,
two mix?
no, I actually print it just like that, and I'll also send him, you know,
Clean.
raw. But
Yeah.
he knows what I want.
Cool. Well, that's very kind of you.
Yeah, and my main mix engineer works in Logic too.
There
so
you
that
go.
helps.
So you can send him the
Yeah.
session. That's
Yeah.
great. Okay, one more thing. Yes, you're going to have to speak up. Nigerian drums? Okay. Yes. Okay, so let me translate the question for the rest of the crowd. This lady asked, when you're compressing Nigerian drums, what do you do to prevent the low end from going away? And that's a good question. It also applies to non-Nigerian drums. So when you compress drums, what do you do to prevent the low end from going away?
I don't like the low end to go anywhere. I don't like it out of control. So there's. It really once again it depends on the track, because sometimes I like using that to my advantage. So meaning where the percussion may be boomy, then I sit the kick somewhere else. You know what I mean? So let the booming of the percussion have its own space. But if I really want the kicks to shine, and it's really about that, then I'll cut the low end off. You know what I mean? I'm not I don't compress too heavy unless it's on purpose. So unless I'm really trying to just mash something to get that effect from it, I don't compress too heavy, because I tend to usually love, like the natural sound. I spend a lot of time trying to get the sound right, so I don't have to. So my compression is pretty light, unless it's purposeful.
So the moral of the story is that if you get the right sound, you don't have to fix it later. It's nice.
Yeah. So if you can spend a lot of time on going in, or whatever your sound source is, getting it how you want it, exactly. You don't have too much to do later.
What a
That always
concept.
becomes a fix-it problem.
Yes.
Project.
Fix it, not mix it.
Yeah.
All right. This is
Got
gonna
1
be
minute.
it. Is gonna be it for us today.
Okay.
For Shay. Thank you so much, Shay, for coming.
Yeah. Right. Thank you for having me.
Fantastic insight into his process. Thanks for watching.